only one small part of the universe. When NASA successfully landed another rover on Mars last week, it reminded us of the wonders and mystery of the red planet. We figure if NASA can take a shot at Mars and stick the landing, so can we. In this episode of the show, our pop culture nostalgia is out of this world as we get our asses to Mars. Blast off. This is Wayback Attack.
Welcome to Wayback Attack. My name is Brian Grantham, and sitting across the universe is Preston Burt. Preston, are you ready for a super long road trip?
Months at a time. If we're going around the universe, I am ready to strap in, get my astronaut ice cream, and just enjoy the ride.
Man, when I was a kid, I loved astronaut ice cream. It was always a treat.
It was so crazy. You could only get it like museums or someplace, but it was, yeah. Give me ice cream that costs $10 anytime and instantly dissolves in your mouth.
I think there was some cereal that also had it. Like maybe I sent away for it or something at some point, but I seem to recall that being a thing. How come it's always Neapolitan? Why is it never like pistachio or anything else?
I don't know. I guess because they figure they cover their bases of flavors and taste with the three types. Someone's got to like vanilla. Someone's got to like chocolate. And then the weirdos can have strawberry.
You know, actually later on tonight, we're going to talk about something like that.
Oh, cool.
But you don't like strawberry ice cream?
Well, I mean, if I had to choose, that's the trashiest of the three.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love it. Especially when there's frozen strawberries in it. That's the best, man.
Ooh. Strawberries
are so good. That was one of the best things when I was a kid about living in Tampa was they have the strawberry festival every year for like the fair or whatever, and just strawberries for days. Like they would have tents where you make your own strawberry shortcake and stuff like that.
Dude, if my strawberry is not artificially flavored candy, I don't want a part of it. Hideous.
I think I have strawberries in my fridge right now.
Nasty. Keep them to yourself.
Well, hopefully you like strawberries because that's the right thing to do.
This is a strawberry podcast.
I've got some documents here, folks, about how great strawberries are. So, tonight we're going to be talking about
something else that's red.
Yeah, there you go.
See, look at that segue.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And we have some footage from the Perseverance landing and stuff like that. But we're going to talk about some of the our favorite instances of Mars and pulp culture. So. I'm pretty excited for this show because Mars is a cool place.
It is. It's been a constant state of wonder for years, and even in the earliest senses of media and television and stuff, they Santa Claus and the Martians. I mean, lots of stuff, and it's just it's persevered throughout pop culture.
Yeah, there you go. Did you watch the landing?
No, because I can't do that kind of stuff live because I get so anxious. And I don't think it's like trauma from Challenger, but I just can't watch in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So
that I couldn't imagine being on that team and then the 7 minutes that they don't know what's happening or whatever, because you spend 7 years getting ready for this moment and then it could just all go wrong at the last minute. And then what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, I guess then you're like, well, let's start working on a different mission now at this point.
But, yeah. The ones I can watch live are the ones where their stakes aren't really that high. Like I've watched the SpaceX's rockets returning to the landing pad, and those are pretty cool, and that's fun to watch. And if it falls in the ocean, no big deal. I also like the ones where they tested like a rocket landing and it didn't land just right, but it still did what it's supposed to do enough to where it was a success, and so it blew up, and the people were still like, yes! It's like that's the best landing.
Yeah, it's just a test. Who cares if it blows up? We have millions and billions of dollars. So, I guess we could go ahead and show and talk over this. So I did watch it live. When I was a kid, my mom, there's not really much going on in the video, so we will we'll just talk over it. This is actually footage. This is something that NASA put together themselves, and you're going to hear them talking, basically talking through the landing, and it's going to have actual footage from the rover. But when I was a kid,
has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration in the velocity. Our current velocity is 440 meters per second at an altitude of about 12
My mom used to always make me get up and, like, at night when there was like an asteroid shower or something like that, she would wake me up and bring me outside to watch the asteroid shower. And, you know, when we lived in Tampa, we had the Museum of Science and Industry, and we would go to it all the time, and they had, you know, all kinds of different exhibits and stuff that were really cool. But when I was a kid, man, I loved space, and so like I was like, I'm gonna do the same thing with my kids, because I had them at the house, and they were in between Zoom calls for their school, and so I was like, hey, let's watch the Mars landing. And none of this footage was being shown then, because they didn't have it, right? Because it takes 11 minutes for, even though this data is traveling at the speed of light back to NASA, it takes 11 minutes for the transit. So they have gone in and done all this. So all you're really watching, they make it like a CG mock-up where it's like, this is what it would look like or whatever, and then the main thing that you're watching is just the people in mission control, and then how they're talking, how they're reacting to, like, okay, well, this happened, and people go, oh yes, and like you see like a guy get excited, like, yeah, my thing worked. And so my kids were not excited at all about it, and so we wound up I watched it in the office instead of with them. So
yeah, isn't it crazy that, I mean, you know, we've landed enough rovers and things on Mars that it seems a little just routine.
Yeah.
And so to a lot of people that novelty wears off. But I mean, this is an entire different planet that no human being has ever stepped foot on.
From the surface of Mars. We have confirmation that the back shell has separated.
I think this is cool because at the bottom of the screen they're actually showing, like, all right, so this is the next thing that's happening that they're talking about, and so like they show, like, okay, these are like the milestones for the landing. So I think and like, and for this video quality to be this good too, like, that's surprising to me, because you know, a lot of that stuff before now, like, the camera quality was just not very good at all.
I gotta say, it's not very red. It's more tan.
Yeah, it looks like a beach.
Not as advertised. 2 stars.
We've been lied to by our government.
Oh man.
So this thing here is pretty cool. So this is, like, if you see the top thing, it's basically lowering the rover while it's maintaining its current altitude. It's lowering the rover down to the surface.
It's like hovering.
Yep. And
touchdown confirmed.
Tango Delta, touchdown.
Safely on the surface of Mars.
Everybody's so excited. Watch this guy here right in the center. That's like,
he's jumping up.
No, like, he like brings his like fist to his mouth, and he's like, oh man, that was so good.
And this one, I felt really bad for this one. I didn't watch it live, but I watched the reactions, and I felt bad because, you know, we're in times of COVID, so everybody has to, like, bump elbows a little bit, and you know, normally they'd be hugging and going crazy, but there had to be a little more calm and collected.
Yeah. So, man, it's so cool. Like, especially since you brought up COVID, I think it's cool because you have a situation where, for like the past year has been such a tough time for everybody, and to be able to have something that, you know, at the end of a year of tough times, to be able to say, man, look at what we did. Like, just like the sheer perseverance of humanity, being able to, like, accomplish something like that, you know?
Yeah, and I know this was a NASA project and JPL is involved, but I mean, like you said, this is humankind. This is a larger level of existence of, look what we can do when we put all of our minds together for a single project. So yeah, that's uplifting. So I give kudos to you. This was a great idea for a podcast, this episode. You know, we always try to theme our podcast around current pop culture and look at how we got here. I don't know if our collected pop culture nostalgia takes that we're going to offer tonight give you a valid roadmap to how we got to landing actual robots on Mars. But I think they're pretty fun.
Yeah. So just a quick aside, I thought it was pretty neat because I was like looking at like the origins of like little green men from Mars and that kind of thing, and it actually goes back super a long time ago.
A long time ago. That was the alternate title for our podcast.
So 1906 was like the first time. It was from Kipling's Puck of Pook's Hill, where he specifically said little green man is as a term for someone from Mars.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So you're gonna maybe see some little green men tonight, and it's probably not gonna be the ones that you're thinking of, because I specifically did not want to include some of them. So, but maybe you'll know this one.
Mr. Quaid, try to calm down.
My name is not Quaid.
They stole his mind.
They erased your identity and implanted a new one.
Now, he wants it back.
We can't let him run around. He knows too much.
There! Get ready for the ride of your life.
Please fasten your seatbelt.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Total Recall, rated R.
Starts Friday, June 1st at a theater near...
Is there a cooler movie than Total Recall?
It's pretty cool. I'll tell you, it has stuck with me since I saw it, because I have actually only seen it twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been quite a while. I need a refresher, but I vividly remember 3 things burned into my brain. Okay, do you know what the 3 things are?
Is it a need for a third hand?
I won't go that far, but yes, there was a third anatomical, and that's the word I'm looking for. A third anatomical issue right there. So yes, the 3-breasted woman was memory number 1. Memory number 2 is Watto, right? In Guato.
I don't. It's been a while since
the guy in the chest,
yes,
right? Like he pulls open his shirt and there's like this other guy that talks gnarly stuff. And then when he gets on the surface of Mars and his eyes bug out from the pressure, yeah, that's all I remember from Total Recall. Ta-da.
Yeah. Almost. That's all you need to remember.
Right? I mean, hey, I'd pay to see that again.
Man, it is so good. Did you ever see the remake that they did with Colin Farrell?
I think I did, but it was so forgettable.
Yeah, I like refused to do it. Like I was still at that point where I was like one of those people that was like trying to ruin one of the perfect movies. I'm not gonna let you do it. So, but so it's actually based off of a short story from Philip K. Dick called his titles are amazing, called We Can Remember It for You Wholesale. So the short story is only 22 pages.
Really?
Yeah, and it takes place in 2 rooms. and that's it. It's basically someone bringing up like repressed memories, and he wrote it during a time when he was going to therapy for some stuff, and so I'm sure it was very personal for him to write, and he was probably relating a lot to what was going on. But it's crazy to think, a lot of those sci-fi movies that are based off of his work are all based off of short stories that he did, like Minority Report, and I, Robot, and stuff like that. So but
didn't he also do Man in the High Castle, something like that?
That's not, I don't think that's a short story.
Oh no, that's a novel for sure.
The and like of course Blade Runner was based off of one of his books.
Right.
If Android, or Do Android Dream of Robotic Sheep? So great titles.
Yeah.
It's funny that people don't do that anymore, and like all the titles now are just 2 words usually, or 1 word. So but yeah, like for the movie they wound up having this really cool idea of someone going in and getting a fake vacation, which I think is an awesome idea, and I wish they could actually do this and implant the vacation into your mind, and then you don't know if he's living his reality, or if they just messed up his brain when they were doing that, or if they uncovered some kind of tucked away secret agent type of deal. And so you got to watch the movie to find out. But
yeah,
so good.
Well, what also is great about this is with my limited memory of the movie, is that I will just say that this was peak Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he was already huge in Terminator, had already done, so many other things, Commando and that stuff. But this was 90s. The movies were big. They were bold. They had a lot of effects. And this was a great Schwarzenegger example.
Yeah. And you talked specifically about the eyes bulging out and stuff like that, and you get that twice in that movie. So because there's a dream where it happens, and then later in the movie it happens for real, and so you get to see the awesome Cronenberg-esque.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Body
again,
horror.
Man.
So, but yeah, I love that movie. And it was the first thing I thought of when we thought of Mars. I thought, you gotta get your ass to Mars. And so, so it was the first thing I definitely had to talk about tonight. So I'm excited. I can't say I'm sharing it with anybody because I'm sure everybody has seen that movie. But if you've only seen the Colin Farrell movie, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you need to get out there and correct that immediately. So.
Well, as crowd pleasing as Brian's pick was, mine is a little more obscure and probably not quite as pleasing.
Biker mice from Mars. Biker mice from Mars. Biker mice from Mars.
Well, I think a quote from the first episode of the show summarizes all you need to know about Biker Mice from Mars. And it is, in this wild and woolly universe of ours, there's only 3 things you can count on. Your brains, your bros, and your bite.
I think that holds true regardless.
Yeah, this is the Tao of Biker Mice from Mars. So, interestingly enough, even though this is a pop culture milestone, this is one that I totally missed. A lot of times for these shows, I kind of look for things that are a little under the radar, that aren't quite so on the nose as Total Recall, which is great. It's a cultural touchstone for sure. But I do like to find things that are a little off the beaten path. And for me, Biker Mice from Mars hit at a time where I had stopped watching a whole lot of cartoons. It aired in 1993. It ran for 3 seasons through 1996, 65 episodes. So I was 13. I really wasn't watching a whole lot of Saturday morning cartoons. Like, I was aware of stuff. More things that I watched were after school in the afternoon, like X-Men the Animated Series or something like that. But I didn't see a whole lot of Biker Mice from Mars, and maybe it was just something that I drew the unlucky straw with my local affiliates or something.
Right.
But I vaguely recall that it existed enough for me to go looking for more information about it, but I didn't grow up watching it. Did you?
So I didn't grow up watching it, but I definitely watched episodes because so at that point, we had like a satellite dish, and so it was a pain. It was before like satellite dishes nowadays, where it's just basically cable. Like we had a dial, and you
had to actually rotate the satellite dish. Wow.
And so typically, like, if you were like watching something, you would just leave it on that network or whatever. Like, you wouldn't go around changing it all the time. And so I definitely remember watching it. And but I think I remembered, like, there was a pretty good toy line for that, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a toy line for that. They had a comic book, very short run. It was 3 issues. And then, most surprisingly, they had a Super Nintendo game that I hadn't seen or played until I looked up research for this episode. It looks like a really fun racing game. It looks really cool. I would like to check it out, except it's the cartridge alone sells for like $50 or something.
Wow.
I guess it's a rare one, but So to give you guys a little bit of a rundown of the show, it's 3 surviving anthropomorphic mice whose entire race was wiped out by these creatures called Plutarchians from Mars. Well, these guys were the only ones left after they killed their race. They were getting away from the bad guys. They crash landed on Earth, and they find themselves in familiar trouble in the city of Chicago, which is being pilfered for its resources by, guess what? Plutarchians. So 3 main characters, the 3 biker mice, are Throttle, Moto, and Vinny. And got some familiar voice actors here. You got Rob Paulsen did the voice of Throttle. Dorian Harewood did the voice of Moto. And Vinny was voiced by Ian Ziering of 90210 fame. So if you don't remember it very well, it might be because it got lost in the shuffle. Because there were a lot of properties like this at the time. You had like Cowboys at Moon Mesa. You had Toxic Crusaders. You had Street Sharks. I think that we're all trying to be like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, essentially.
So going back to Rob Paulsen, what else has he done? Anything? Like, because so I don't know. I feel like I know that name for sure.
Okay.
But the problem is, all I can think about is Fight Club, because isn't that like his name was Robert Paulsen? And so like that's in my head.
Yes. Rob Paulsen has done quite a bit, and I'm very disappointed that you don't recognize that name more fully, because he voiced your favorite character, Raphael of Ninja Turtles. And then Animaniacs, all that stuff. Yeah, he's been quite busy.
Do you think that not David Fincher, gosh, who wrote the book? Chuck Palahniuk. Do you think that he was a big fan of Robert Paulsen, and that's why he put his name in?
Maybe he's a huge Biker Mice from Mars fan.
Maybe,
you know, a lot of people think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when they hear his name, but you know, most people, maybe some people are thinking Biker Mice from Mars.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. One of my later picks that we'll talk about, it's when it's touching on a zeitgeist, and this one obviously we mentioned is like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but earlier in cartoon history you had kind of the same fervor for a similar type of thing. You know, Thundercats hit big, and so then you had like Tiger Sharks, and you had Silverhawks, and like where you just take one animal and another thing, you pair it together, and magic happens, or you try to get magic to happen. And this one is like some sort of mutated animal, and then it helps if there's a little bit of a hook. And in this case, instead of being ninjas, they have motorcycles.
Yeah, they're bikers.
And then also around that time, you have the environmentally friendly message. So these resources and buildings and the environment.
Yeah, Chicago, all the resources.
Yeah, really random. I don't know why they picked Chicago out of the blue, but yeah, really cool. And I've watched a few episodes because you can get it. They're currently on YouTube. So I think that speaks to its popularity is if you can find full episodes streaming in their entirety on YouTube. You know, it's maybe bound for the bargain racks of the DVD aisle.
Well, you know, I think one of the things too that the setting for that allowed was with them being bikers, it was easy for them to have attitude, and that was like the perfect time period for like everything had to have attitude, you know.
Yeah.
And so you know, you get these rough and gruff like teenage biker guys and stuff like that, and so it's perfect. Yeah.
One other little bit of trivia is, like I said, one of the 3 main characters is voiced by Ian Ziering of 90210. Well, he must have called in his friends for favors, because almost every single main member of that cast appeared on at least one episode. So throughout the run of the 65 episodes, you can hear at some point Jason Priestley, Luke Perry, Brian Austin Green, Tori Spelling, and Jenny Garth.
That's crazy.
And then, interestingly, we already had just the general familiarity with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Rob Paulsen voiced Raphael. And then the character Moto was voiced by Dorian Harewood. I didn't recognize his name, but for 4 episodes, I guess Uncle Phil was sick, because he voiced Shredder on Ninja Turtles for 4 episodes, and he's been in a lot of other stuff, a lot of great voice acting work. But I just thought those crossovers were cool.
That's crazy. That is neat. That has to be like, hey, I know a guy, like, you know, and so, well, okay, that's cool. We'll get him to come down and do it for us.
Yeah, or like they rap on 90210 one day, like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Not much. Oh, you want to come down and record in the studio for a day? Sure.
Yeah, make some quick cash, and then maybe you like voice acting, and you could spin off your whole career.
Last thing I'll say about this, and then we can go to your next topic, is oddly enough, this is a Marvel production.
The cartoon was?
Yes.
That's crazy.
And they produced, like I said, the comic book, but it says a Marvel production. So I'm just saying, Guardians of the Galaxy was a little obscure.
Yeah.
Maybe the next big Marvel Cinematic Universe, the inspiration is right in front of us. Biker Mice from Mars.
Or you could just add them to my Tron Alien Star Wars thing and throw in the Biker Mice also there.
Hey, I wouldn't complain.
They could ride light cycles. That'd be dope. So, well, I like Biker Mice from Mars. I'm excited for that. But I am super excited for my next pick. So check it.
And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, hell is a deep, dark, foul-smelling prison of the damned, filled with fire and brimstone, lost souls and demons. And how do you escape this eternal damnation? You blast the nasty pink demons right between their beady little eyes.
Doom for the 64-bit Jaguar, the best Doom ever.
It was tough for me to pick what I wanted to. I know I show a lot of Jaguar commercials on this show, but they had like some of the best commercials because they're full of attitude. But man, I love Doom. I love Doom way more than I love Total Recall. Did you play Doom on computer or I guess anything?
I mean, I have played Doom, but I was not a regular to Doom. So,
dude, I love Doom so much. I played Wolfenstein a little bit, and it would have been when I was in 5th grade.
You're such a dork. You're wearing the shirt.
I know, that's what I was doing.
I just noticed that. What a goober.
But I played Wolfenstein in like 5th grade, so like when I was like 11, right? And then, man, when in 6th grade, I think it was, I really got into Doom. I would get the level creator books and stuff like that, and so they would always come with like a disc in the back to download some level editing software or install some level editing software to your computer, and then I would make my own levels. Downloading other people's levels, people's WADs is what the level
See, you're
files
schooling
are
me. I didn't know you could do all that stuff. Dude. I thought it was just a set playthrough.
So they had that, and actually, so Doom was awesome because you never hear anybody call anything shareware nowadays because now we just have demos and stuff, but Doom was spread around with people via shareware, right? And so it was like the first I guess map, or like not the first level, but like the first couple levels, and if you wanted to play past that, you had to pay for it to unlock it, right? And man, it went around like crazy. Everyone that I knew was playing it, that played PC games at the time. And it was fun because we didn't really use mice to play those games back then. You just used the arrow keys, space bar, and stuff like that, left shift to run real fast and stuff. But you didn't get, I think it was 2 was when it's added mouse support or whatever, so that you could aim up and down because it just automatically did that. But anyways, yeah, man, you could do that. You could download other people's stuff. I think it was a Doom 2 WAD, because WAD are like the file types for that stuff. But there's a Doom 2 WAD that someone took and they made Aliens. They took all the sound clips from the Aliens movie and like made like all new graphics and everything, all new sprites, and put it in. And then like you would have like, you'd be walking around a corner and you would hear like the Sarge be like, check those corners, and like you would hear like Apone scream and stuff. It was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, Doom was dope.
Okay, now I know this is an idiotic question, but for me, since I'm not too familiar with Doom, how does it work into our Mars theme?
All right. Well, so Doom takes place on Mars.
Okay.
So you're
shooting aliens, right?
No, you're shooting demons.
Oh, okay. See, that's why I was confused.
So basically what happens is we make it to Mars, right? And there's scientists up there, and they uncover this weird artifact. And like as they're uncovering it, they open up a portal to hell. And depending on what Doom game you're playing, the story changes a little bit. But for most of them, the beginning of the story always starts on Mars. And so the second one usually will take place on Earth. You know, like it's basically after that you're just in hell. But yeah, so you're on Mars. You're working for UAC, which is I can't remember what they're called, the Union Aerospace Corporation, and you're Doom guy. He was just some faceless space marine, and in the original game, and they did a really cool thing with the game that came out in 2016, I think it was, where like they're really like feeding into like the absurdity of it all. And there's like this there's this part where you're actually this like the Doom guy is this timeless savior that battles the hordes of hell. And like there's this like clip of like where you see these people like worshiping at your altar and stuff like that. But in the original game, there was no real backstory to it or anything like that. You're just mowing down tons and tons of demons. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was so good.
When did it come out?
I don't.
Early 90s?
Oh, 93. Yeah.
Okay.
So it came out in 1993, and it's sold over 10 million copies. Have been sold in the series. So, and you know, Wolfenstein really was it really opened up the door for first person gameplay with Wolfenstein. But Doom added a whole nother level of complexity with like the way you could build a stage. Like you could have like levels going up and down, and like where the maps that you were creating, where you could layer them on top of each other. That wasn't available like that in Wolfenstein. And so people took that, like what they did, and they just ran with it. And there was tons of like clone games. I mean, Chex even had their own game styled like this that they packed in with cereal.
Food?
Yeah. Chex Mix, like the cereal. Yeah. And so like it was such a cultural touchstone that for game development that like people were blown away by it, and it opened up the door for basically every game that you see today, because there wasn't any real like first person games at all back then, and so it just changed game development.
Oh yeah,
completely.
this is a paradigm shift for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had first person shooters with like Operation Wolf and stuff in the arcade, and then Revolution X and things as they progressed. But as far as just like the
3D environment,
the flexibility allowed with Doom was really a paradigm shift. It was really cool.
Yeah. So,
what Doom are they on now? Like Doom 3000?
No, they rebooted the series in 2016, and so the last Doom that came out last year, Doom Eternal, is part 2 of that trilogy. We'll see if they wind up finishing it, because that's the studio that is making. Oh no, never mind. That's Wolfenstein. I was gonna say the studio that's making the new Indiana Jones game is working on it. I think but they're working on something. That studio that makes the Doom games, they're working on some other project right now, and so they have to finish it. Like, I don't know.
The people demand it.
Yeah, you have to have, something crazy going on. So
it's only a trilogy if you have 3.
Yeah. So, but you know, I remember when part 3 came out, that the gameplay shifted so much from 2 to 3 originally, because 3 became more of a horror game. You could only have your flashlight out. It was really dark. That like the lighting was a big focus for that game, and you could only have your light out, but not both your gun and your light. And it was really just a technical issue that they had with that engine. But everyone was like, "Oh yeah, they're just trying to make a horror game." Like, so where you can't, if you can't see when you have your gun out, so you have to like choose what you're gonna do. But people have gone back and modded it to where you could do both, and it's not as good. So Doom 3 wasn't that great. So hopefully this new Doom 3 will do wonders. So,
well, I can always count on you for a great video game pick. And you outdid yourself.
Well, I'm glad that the Doom guy was able to change video games by on his mission to Mars that he took. So hopefully you're able to do the same.
Awful.
This is a truly anomalous formation. It's unlike anything that we've seen so far. We're trying not to go too nuts up here, but we think there's a good chance that this could be water. Of course, if that's correct, then we may have found the key to permanent human colonization.
Yes! Okay, we're ready to light this candle.
Let's go to Mars.
What the hell is that?
No idea, boss.
Prepare to abandon ship.
For centuries, we've searched for the origin of life on Earth.
Did they find it, Preston?
They did. Spoiler alert, they do go to Mars. All right, so this is from the forgettable 2000 film Mission to Mars. And I'm not bringing this up because I'm claiming it's a timeless classic. Or even, to use our word that we've used so far, a cultural touchstone. It is far from that. But it did deserve a little better fate than it got. And I would like to refresh people's memories about Mission to Mars. Do you remember Mission to Mars? Did you ever watch Mission to Mars?
You know, I never watched it.
I don't blame you.
And I love that cast.
Yeah, I know. It had a lot going for it. It came out in March of 2000. So I was debating on whether I should talk about this or not, because usually we talk about 80s and 90s nostalgia. But I figure this Joker is literally, 2 weeks away from being 21 years old, old enough to drink on its own. I think it's old enough to talk about Mission to Mars. It's a little forgettable because it's another one of those scenarios where you get confused about the movie because two movies that were so similar came out at the same time. This same year, you had another Mars movie called Red Planet with Val Kilmer. Do you remember that one?
Not really. I don't know. It's so weird because so in 2000, I had just moved states by myself. Like, it was like I'd been living on my own for a while, but I had left the state to go live on my own in a different state. And so who knows what I was getting up to at that point.
Yeah, you mean B-level cinematic movies were not your priority there?
I was I was managing a store in a mall, so I went to that movie theater all the time. Yeah. I don't know.
It's probably a little more near and dear to my heart because I actually worked in the movie theater at this time. I cut this movie together. I spliced the reels. I showed it dozens of times. So I've seen this movie more than most people probably have, but not in its entirety. I think when I rewatched it earlier this week, it was probably the second time I ever saw it in its full entirety. But yeah, all right. So rundown of this movie. Here's the summary. I stole this from IMDb. When the first manned mission to Mars meets with a catastrophic and mysterious disaster after reporting an unidentified structure, a rescue mission is launched to investigate the tragedy and bring back any survivors. So the movie takes place in 2020, which gives you a little bit of the time frame. It's pretty tame in its expectations for what the future holds as far as space travel and things like that. But it's got an all-star cast. Okay, so you got Gary Sinise, Tim Robbins, Don Cheadle, Jerry O'Connell, and this movie is directed by Brian De Palma, man. All right, Brian De Palma, Scarface, Carlito's Way. What else did he do? He did tons of stuff. Yeah, tons of stuff. All right. So, and I think this ended up being his last theatrical, major studio release ever. And this movie didn't tank necessarily. It just didn't do as well as expected. But anyway, I'll try not to ruin it for anybody, although this is a 21-year-old movie. So Don Cheadle and his crew go to Mars. They start getting some sort of odd reading about metal underneath the surface. And they go and investigate it with their radar gun, which doesn't make sense. But anyway, they go scan it. Well, that pisses whatever that thing is off.
That was its home.
And of the 4 astronauts, 3 get killed. One spectacularly, who gets sucked into a sand vortex and is spun around so fast he centrifuges himself apart and just explodes. It's epic. And then Don Cheadle survives, but you kind of don't know that yet. And they have to send a rescue mission that involves those 3 other actors plus a female lead whose name I regrettably forget. But it's got a lot going for it. I think it deserves a stronger fate than what it was relegated to. It got $22 million and debuted at #1 in the box office, but was quickly unseated the second week by Aaron Brockovich, just to give you a time frame like comparison. So I also just thought this was a neat movie because it was like visual. It had a lot of really cool special effects that were practical.
Yeah.
They did a lot of like floating and levitating with just camera movements. And they've got this centrifuge thing that rotates. And from what I read, I don't know if it's still there, but from what I read, a lot of the set is still accessible via the
Mars rover.
No, via Epcot.
Okay.
It's on the Mission Earth or
Spaceship Earth. Spaceship Earth. Okay.
It's like a tube and it's rotating.
So they did the same thing that like they did for the Nightmare on Elm Street movie, like the scene where Tina's being drug up the wall and across the ceiling. Yeah. They built that practical. Now the downside is for gravity to work that way, that would have been rotating way faster than that. But they did do that in a lot of scenes in that movie, like because since they went ahead and built this thing, the set that people could walk on while they were rotating it, they did like a lot of stuff for like a lot of cool shots of like the camera coming down and that kind of thing. So
so I know it's a space movie, so there's automatically going to be some similarities, but I think if you look back at this movie, or if you ever watch it at the first time, if you're watching it for the first time, if you're able to identify other movies that pull this off better, like, or have different elements that are in this movie. So I feel like Mission to Mars is a slightly inferior version of these 3 movies combined.
Okay.
Let's see.
Pitch Black.
No. So like Gravity, that's the one I was going to think of, with Sandra Bullock.
I love that movie.
Where there's like a disaster in space and you got to figure it out. So you got the disaster element. Then you've got the, I hope this isn't spoiling a lot of things, but you got like the existential quandary of the nature of your place in the universe. And maybe not being the only one there, of Annihilation. Did you ever see that movie? That movie was like kind of eerie, unsettling, but
it's very good,
really, really cool on a philosophical level. And then the book and movie The Martian, where there's a on-planet disaster and a survival tale. You pair all those 3 together and you get Mission to Mars, but again, it was made 21 years ago, so it had some technological limitations and things like that, but it deserves a second look. And also, it's a cool place in history because it's another one of those movies that came out the same time as another similar movie, like when you had Deep Impact and Armageddon and A Bug's Life and Ants, or Volcano and Dante's Peak. This one was Red Planet or Mission to Mars. I like Mission to Mars.
Do you think that they plan that stuff? Like one studio hears that this type of movie is being made, and so they're like, well, we're gonna make a movie like that too.
Probably.
Yeah.
Or we got to beat them to market.
Yeah, because there has to be so many scripts floating around that are like, well, we could just make this on a different planet or whatever. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on. And sometimes you roll the dice and sometimes you win.
I think in that case, both parties lost.
Yeah.
So
craps.
Well, Mars is a really cool place, and it's undoubtedly a awesome canvas for people to paint vivid stories on. And so I think this Mars also does a great job at that as well. So
There's nothing wrong with studying. Just gotta know how to pick the subject.
If it's cool and it rules, those musketeers, three musketeers, they ain't nobody's fool. Yeah, they're so big on chocolate out to here.
The library is officially closed.
It's hard to keep them under wraps, those three musketeers.
Yeah. And we are open for business. Yeah.
I'm confused.
Well, someone in chat earlier said it perfectly. Makes me want a Mars bar. So the Mars Candy Company makes Three Musketeers, the best candy bar out on the market. So,
what else does Mars make? Obviously, the Mars bar.
The Mars bar. M&M's, right?
Oh yeah, the Mars M&Ms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they like absorbed another company, so they have a lot. Do you remember? I think I might have. I don't think I ever experienced it, but do you remember the originally Three Musketeers were 3 candy bars, and that's why they were called Three Musketeers?
Well, I don't remember that, but I was gonna talk about it. So, well, we were talking about that earlier when we were talking about the Neapolitan space ice cream.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I didn't know. I don't remember that at all. Do you remember that?
I want to say I don't remember them being packaged together, but I remember at one point you could get a different flavored Three Musketeer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so originally it had 3 pieces in one package, so I would assume it was like Mounds or, you know, like what's the coconut one?
Almond Joy.
Almond Joy, yeah. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. But so they came in 3 different pieces in one package. One was chocolate, one was strawberry, and one was vanilla, and that's why they were called the Three Musketeers. And then the rising cost and wartime restrictions on sugar saw that they phased out vanilla and strawberry pieces because chocolate was the most popular one. So
I think I've had the vanilla kind. Like, I think they brought back the vanilla kind before, but
is Three Musketeers your intro to nougat?
Probably, although I loved Zero candy bars, and Zero had nougat too. But Three Musketeers is the only nougat candy bar wherein I will eat the chocolate off of the outside and just have the nougat, and recognizably so. It is quite disturbing to see this gnawed on little soft candy. It grosses my wife out to know it.
Three Musketeers was like one of my favorite things for Halloween. Like, I was always super excited to get Three Musketeers bars, and it's funny too. So that commercial, you know, I was joking about, you know, the canvas that Mars has, but really, man, that commercial is a series of commercials where you follow those 3 guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had tons of them, and it was like 1990 was that one, and then 91 they had a different step in their story. So like they drove off there, and then in 1991 they're like, hey man, you don't have enough gas in this car. And he's like, oh, don't I? And he's driving down the road eating, and they're like, they run out of gas. They're like, now what are we gonna do? He's like, I guess you're gonna push. And he keeps eating Three Musketeer bars. Eventually they go to a nightclub, and like they do all this like crazy stuff.
I'm stupefied. Like, is it the same actors even?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So I thought it'd be cool. Like I was thinking maybe I should download multiple of these, but then I was like, I don't want to make people watch like 3 minutes of Musketeers commercials.
This is the Musketeers podcast.
But I also think it's interesting that the advertising for these Three Musketeer bars, how in the 90s, or I guess mid 90s, they like totally shifted marketing. And they went away from like these 3 cool guys doing fun things and eating Three Musketeers bars all the time. And the one, if you watch the end of that commercial, he like, there's one guy that threw it up and ate it. He did that in every single commercial. He would always do it. That was his thing. But yeah, so they changed it a couple different times. In 1998, they started doing like these like CG Three Musketeers guys. In the earlier 80s, there was people dressed up as the Three Musketeers, but at one point like the commercial I was originally going to choose was one that I remember vividly, where it was these ladies in an office setting, and one of them's like, come here, check this out, and she opens up a drawer in someone's office, and Three Musketeer bars come floating out.
I've seen that one,
and I was like, that was the one that I was going to pick, but then
that was like the dream of just like all those candies coming out. Shit.
And so they had shifted away from just being, big on taste to being like the less fat chocolate bar, and so they were like big on chocolate, not on fat.
I remember
and so
that too. Yeah,
they just totally shifted the way they marketed it, and I guess that it worked because I think they still marketed it that same way.
Yeah, the low fat craze really hit everything back in the 90s, and a lot of things shifted. All right, so I did some of your homework for you just now. The Mars Corporation, they are now Mars Wrigley, which refreshes my memory because we drive by the Wrigley plant, and now there's a sign that says Mars. So they've absorbed Wrigley's. Here are some of their original products. I will not read all of them. Here are the ones that you would recognize: Three Musketeers, Bounty. Do you remember that?
Oh no, I'm thinking
a candy
of
bar.
I was thinking of the
you don't see that
quicker
anymore.
picker upper
Combos.
I love combos.
Let's see, Kudos. I loved how they branded Kudos to where people thought they were like a healthy snack, and it was just like a candy bar. I loved Kudos though. Oh my gosh, they're so good. M&M's, Maltesers, Mars candy bar, Milky Way, Munch. I love Munch. Munch is the peanut candy bar in like toffee kind of.
I don't remember that.
They're really good. They'll break your teeth off, but they're good. Snickers and Twix are from the candy bars that you would recognize. They do have a lot more, but those are the ones you recognize. So yeah, Mars is kicking out some classics.
Is there one on there called Milkshake? Man, when I was a kid, there was this it was like a CVS or something that we went to, and I don't know why we went there, but I'd go there quite frequently for some reason. And but man, it was to get medicine. But there was this magazine I would get, and I'd always get this candy bar that was a milkshake candy bar. So if anybody remembers milkshake candy bars, I've never seen them anywhere else. That was the best. That was actually the best candy bar. And then after that,
forget Three Musketeers that we're talking about on this episode of the show. Let me tell you about that for 20 minutes, and then talk about the best candy bar that you can't get or nobody knows of.
It was very similar. Hey, if you know it, let me know, because man, if they still make that, I would buy a ton of it. So, but yeah, man, I threw you a loop. I threw you a loop because I was trying to think. I didn't want to do like 3 movies, or I was like, maybe you should do a song. And I was like, nah, because I don't feel like having to do the whole thing on YouTube with the song. So, so I was like, that'll be perfect. So,
well, I've got one final selection for you, and it may be an obvious one on the surface, but it's not where I'm going. But it's a familiar character you'll all love.
The Earth? Oh, the Earth will be gone in just a few seconds.
Oh, well, don't bother, Dan. No point in wasting money on a flying saucer when the Earth's not gonna... Coing! Pardon me again, Doc, but just what did you mean by that crack about the Earth being gone?
Oh, I'm going to blow it up. It obstructs my view of Venus.
It does? That's a shame.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom. The Aluminum Q-36 explosive space modulator. That creature has stolen the space modulator.
And that, my friends, is the inimitable Marvin the Martian. You knew he had to show up on an episode of Pop Culture Classics from talking about Mars.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm surprised you didn't take him as your pick early on.
I thought about doing it for John, because I know that he would love for him to be on here. So, all
right, so I'm going to talk about Marvin the Martian, but I'm not going to go and just the route you probably think I'm going to go to, because it's going to lead us somewhere else. All right, so Marvin the Martian, he has such pop culture ubiquity, but he was actually only in 5 theatrical cartoons.
Okay.
That were, the Bugs Bunny classics and stuff. So you had Haredevil Hare, his first appearance in 1948, where Bugs lands on the moon, and which is interesting to me because it's Marvin the Martian,
right,
and his first exposure is actually on the moon, which is new. And then in 52 there was the Hasty Hare, and then probably the most familiar one came out in 53. 53. I mean, like, I didn't realize that they were that old. They're that old, but they still hold up. Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century. and then you got Hairway to the Stars in 1958, and Mad as a Mars Hare in 1963. So those were the 5 main ones that established Marvin the Martian. You also had his little dog. I forget what the dog's name too, but and then really nothing until the Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner movie in 1979.
I love that movie.
And here's what's interesting about that one. I love that movie too. But 1979, that appearance, that was the first time he was actually named Marvin.
Oh, really?
His name was never introduced prior to that movie. So he was just a Martian character. And yeah, so nameless until 79, even though he'd been in existence for 30 entire years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder what made them bring him back. Because, you know, it had to be somebody like when they were writing that movie, there was somebody that was like a fan of I'm going to say a fan of Duck Dodgers. And was like, hey, we should have that guy. Who? Marvin. Marvin? Who are you talking about? No, I'm telling you, Marvin the Martian right here.
Here's another little bit of history. Is that Marvin the Martian, you know, obviously Marvin was voiced by Looney Tunes great Mel Blanc, right? But, you know, even though characters have progressed over time with different voice actors, Marvin the Martian, maybe because his voice is kind of easy to do, he has so many people that have portrayed him. So you got Mel Blanc, Rob Sherwood, Joe Alasky, Rob Paulson.
Oh, my goodness.
In Tasmania, he portrayed him. Neil Ross, Maurice LaMarche, you know, from Animaniacs as well. Greg Burson, Keith Scott, Bob Bergen, who portrayed him in Space Jam. Eric Goldberg, Harry Shearer of The Simpsons has done him. Maybe on The Simpsons, actually. Jeff Bergman, Samuel Vincent, Billy West. You know, he's a famous voice actor. James Arnold Taylor, Eric Bauza, Damon Jones, and now Kevin Snick. So
there's somebody that you forgot though.
Who's that?
Preston Burt. Let's hear it.
No, the space modulator.
There you go. Perfect. Is that Wikipedia? Add it.
Yeah, boom. Wayback Attack. Preston Burt. Anyway, so I thought that was pretty interesting, and we started the show talking about Mars rover named, what was it?
Perseverance.
Perseverance. There was another Mars rover mission for Spirit in 2004, and not actually on the rover itself, but on the mission badge that NASA had, or JPL had. Marvin the Martian made the mission badge.
That's awesome.
So, well, anyway, do you have any special memories about Marvin the Martian before I go off on this little tangent?
You know, I like the way he walks, like his like fast little feet. He reminds me, like when my dog does that, and so like my old dog, she does that, and so I've always liked that. But outside that, you know, I guess because I was trying to think, where's all these places that all these people have voiced him? But I guess he would show up in like Tiny Toons sometimes and stuff like that, you know. So I guess that's crazy. So many people have voiced him. That blows my mind. But yeah, I've never, you know, Duck Dodgers is probably like the best thing that has had Marvin the Martian. I guess Space Jam. People really like that. He must be in the pinball machine, I bet.
You know, I have to look, but I bet he is. It makes sense. Well, the reason I wanted to bring him up was not necessarily just to talk about Marvin the Martian, but it was a chance to talk about the Looney Tunes apparel craze of the early 90s.
And we have some pictures of some of the ones that you bought, right?
I did not buy these, no. Anyway, I remembered it. I lived through it. I didn't personally wear much of this stuff, but it's an interesting look at culture that I read, starting with an article on GQ that kind of gives you a little bit more of the history of how this started. And the whole streetwear imagery of the Tasmanian devil and a gold chain, Wile E. Coyote and a mink, Marvin the Martian bandana, it can be traced back to one group, a shop in Queens. Check out this picture here. So Queens-based design crew, the Mighty Shirt Kings, tied the characters to the hip-hop community forever by blending New York-style graffiti with those cartoon characters, so iconic, and those would be seen. You know, people who would come to Queens would see that and see that urban life, and it got adopted by famous people and famous rappers and things like that. And then people would come visit New York and they'd take it back with them. And so it kind of got ubiquity within the hip hop community, but it all started with like traditional street art paired onto clothing by these guys called the Mighty Shirt Kings.
Now, for anybody that can't see what we're showing, think of in your dirt mall the airbrush t-shirt store, and that's basically what it is. It is a Bugs Bunny with a crown and bat and a gold chain with a Y, and it says "Yayo" behind him. And he's wearing like a king. He's dressed as a king with some Air Jordans on.
Yep. So this is going hang on, don't show this one yet. This one is, the pictures may be a little bit out of order, but
I can do them in any order.
No, that's fine. The popularity of the characters, like I said, spread through the hip hop community and then into other cultures too. And one of the most popular characters was, of course, Bugs Bunny, and he had the So this is one of the most familiar images, and this was a bootleg image. So the first one I showed you, the Street Kings, that was just bootleg stuff,
right.
Artistry. Well, right now, if you're not looking, I'm showing you something you could probably picture in your mind because this was everywhere, and it's a Tasmanian devil and Bugs Bunny wearing a backwards cap, wearing backwards pants and backwards shirts, just like crisscross.
Yeah, they're crisscross.
Looking like
they have crisscross's hair too.
Yeah, looking like b-boys. And I think everybody had at least one kid in their school that was wearing this shirt, or you could spot it in the mall. It's very ubiquitous. But these things that spread naturally from the hip hop community, I think are what inspired the ability for there to be the Warner Brothers store.
Yeah.
The Warner Brothers studio store, which started licensing officially these characters on all kinds of things.
So also something on here, I don't know if they talked about it in the article, but the same type of thing happened with Bart Simpson. And you had these places, I think that was in New York also, like in the different boroughs, and they started doing like knockoff Bart Simpson shirts and stuff. And that stuff's actually super collectible.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And like it's like you said, like they would take Bart Simpson and like you know, make him fit in with like the street culture, and like that whole craze like really blew up the Simpsons in a way with people that were into the street culture and the look of that and everything like that. So,
but what happened early on after these original ones is that one character stood out, and that was Marvin the Martian. And so as the popularity of the culture went and grew, and they got to be more professionally produced and licensed, you started seeing a lot more of Marvin the Martian. I found this one on eBay. This is a real shirt, and there's multiple copies of this selling for between $200 and $300 for this one shirt.
That's crazy.
And then there's another shirt that's reversible. So you see there's the Marvin the Martian on the inside or the outside, and if you like it enough, you can swap over and do Tasmanian Devil if you want a little flavor. But Marvin the Martian seemed to carry a lot more weight within the community and started being associated with hip hop and with street culture and with basketball. And so I'm showing a shirt right now of Marvin the Martian dunking a basketball in space, and I'm going to go on a limb and say, I mean, obviously it makes sense. Marvin the Martian is tied somehow to Space Jam, but I'm pretty sure that this apparel and the ubiquity of the streetwear and Marvin Martian's popularity among the hip hop community and the basketball community is what led to both the Warner Brothers studio store, having eventually 130 locations at its peak, running from 1991 to 2005, and also to bringing us 1996's Space Jam.
And 2022's Space Jam.
There you go.
Or is it coming out this year?
Yeah. So it's a fascinating case study. on apparel and on pop culture and Marvin the Martian. And there's some other articles out there you can read, but like I said, there's a GQ article called Lord Forgive Me, The Life of Urban Looney Tunes that you should check out, and you can see some of these pictures on that article as well. Well, I think Marvin the Martian is the only appropriate anchor to our episode about Mars.
Yeah.
And, I mean, look, we talked about cartoons, fashion, movies, video games, food. I think we covered all 5 of the major food groups here for pop culture nostalgia.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy that I feel like Mars got its due, you know. so it's nice to know that hey, it's taken one of ours, perseverance, and it's given back in return.
There we go.
To you.
Hey, and thanks for persevering through this episode of the show. My name is Preston. You can find me on Twitter at SquaredStiff. Brian, where can they find you?
I am at BE Grantham. You can find the show at Wayback_attack. And you can email the show at waybackattackshow at gmail.com.
Oh, and hey, we are also on Patreon. We're actually going to be recording a bonus episode immediately after this show. So if you're not a member of the Patreon, join up and you can have special bonus episodes just for you. We're going to talk a little bit more about some tangential stuff related to space in the next one and what we've been up to lately. So stick around and become a member if you are not already. And thank you to those of you who are. But regardless, for listening to the show at all, we certainly do appreciate it.
Yes. And, you know, there are other things also other than just the bonus show. There's other, you get access to the Discord and stuff like that. So make sure you check it out. And I guess we will see you next time.
See ya.